One that says, me watching her scream after I poured boiling water on her after she told a boy happy birthday because why you happy, he made it another year. Just weird stuff that's super weird to repost, especially under this context.
When investigators found 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez's body chopped up in a Tesla trunk on September 8, 2025, they thought it was just another brutal murder case. But then they checked D4vd's TikTok, and what they uncovered was insane. When TikTok posts expose a killer's true colors, we talking about D4vd, real name David Anthony Burke, a 20-year-old artist who thought he was slick, building his come up through viral TikTok hits like Romantic Homicide and Here With Me, but check. This, homie was out here posting content that was basically a digital confession to murder and nobody peeked game until it was too late. This ain't your typical rapper gets in trouble story. This is some next level psycho got the whole internet shook. Real talk, when they found 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez's body chopped up in this dude's Tesla trunk on September 8, 2025, investigators thought they had a regular murder case on their hands, but when they started digging through bros' social media, man, they found a whole treasure map of crazy that had been sitting right there in the open, and everybody just thought it was regular dark humor. Turns out this fool's TikTok reposts were basically a play-by-play of what he was planning to do. Now listen, I've seen some wild my time covering these streets, but this case right here, this got me questioning everything about how these young cats be moving on social media, because what investigators found wasn't just some random violent post. This was a whole systematic documentation of a killer's mindset laid out for anyone with eyes to see. The first red flag that got the detective's attention was this repost of a dude chopping up raw chicken with the caption, "Me if I see her talk with other dudes." Now, any regular person would look at that and think, damn, toxic as hell. But when you find out that Celeste's body was literally dismembered, that post hits different. That ain't just jealousy talking, that's a straight up blueprint for murder posted up for his whole timeline to see. But hold up, it gets worse. This clown also reposted the American Psycho nail gun scene with the caption, "Me after hearing about her past with other boys. I'm jealous and utterly disgusted by her actions." Bro was really out here using movie scenes to telegraph his violent intentions, and everybody just scrolled past like it was regular content. The say jealousy and disgust, he was talking about that lined up perfectly with what investigators learned about his relationship with this little girl. What really got me tight about this whole situation is how this dude had multiple reposts about killing partners, dismembering them, mental health struggles, and mock funerals. Like homie was creating a whole curriculum for murder on his social media, and people were just liking and sharing this content like it was bars or something. Online discussions described these posts as fetishizing murder, and that's exactly what it was. This fool was getting off on the fantasy before he made it reality. The most foul part, D4vd's TikTok profile picture was a bloody blindfolded Hello Kitty. Now, you might think that's just some edgy aesthetic choice, but hold that thought. Celeste was last seen wearing Hello Kitty sandals and carrying a Hello Kitty keychain, and she loved that character, so this wasn't just a random profile pic. This was this sicko putting his victim's favorite character on his page like some twisted trophy. That's some real predator behavior right there. The Hello Kitty situation gets even more demonic when you realize he posted a video on February 7, 2024, captioned, "When your card declines at therapy and they bring in that one Hello Kitty girl you met in 2021, that wasn't no meme. Family, that was him confessing to meeting Celeste online years earlier, hiding the truth in plain sight like some kind of sick game." But the piece that really had investigators heated was this cryptic eye. Miss her repost he shared alongside violent memes. They think this was him talking about Celeste after she went missing, but instead of helping find her, this demon was posting about missing her while knowing damn well where she was cut up in his trunk.
Alright, so chat, there's a rapper named David that I didn't know that much about, but apparently I actually talked to the guy before.
What's really crazy is how this fool managed to build a whole career off the same emotions that drove him to commit murder. His song Romantic Homicide got billions of streams, and everybody thought it was just some heartbreak music. But now investigators think this track might have been a confession disguised as art. Like this dude was literally profiting off singing about his own crimes. The investigation showed that all these TikTok posts were from before they found the body described as old videos. That means this psycho was fantasizing about murder publicly for months, or even years before he actually did it. This wasn't no crime of passion or heat of the moment situation. This was premeditated violence that homie was documenting like he was keeping a diary. Online communities started comparing his content to Jeffrey Dahmer type stuff. And that comparison ain't even exaggerated. Just like Dahmer, this dude seemed to get pleasure not just from the violence itself, but from the psychological games, the hints, the clues, the way he could hide his true nature while building up his public image as some sensitive indie artist. What's really disturbing is how calculated all this was. Every repost, every caption, every piece of content seemed carefully chosen to document his mental journey toward violence. This wasn't random posting or just being edgy for clout. This was a systematic record of someone's descent into becoming a killer, all while he was gaining followers and building his brand. The case completely changed how law enforcement looks at social media evidence in murder cases. D4vd's TikTok activity wasn't just background information or character evidence. It was literally a roadmap showing his motivations, his planning process, and his psychological state throughout the whole period leading up to Celeste's murder. Every repost was a breadcrumb. Every caption was a confession, and every piece of shared content was another piece of the puzzle. The real story behind the headlines. Celeste Rivas Hernandez was only 15 years old when they found her remains. But her story with this demon, D4vd, started way earlier than anybody first realized. What the investigators uncovered was some real predator that began when baby girl was just 11 years old. A whole grooming process that got documented across multiple platforms and a timeline that showed how this sicko's violent fantasies slowly turned into deadly reality. Interview.
It was the body of a young girl named Celeste who would have just turned 15 years old.
Okay, so another thing that's kind of confusing me about this whole thing, I got some Casamigos. Nothing that's confusing me about this whole thing. She was last seen on April 5th.
Real talk. Celeste was described by her family as a beloved daughter, sister, cousin, and friend. A young shorty who loved Hello Kitty and had her whole future ahead of her. She was petite at about 71 pounds, had wavy black hair, and was last seen wearing a tube top, black leggings, a yellow metal chain bracelet, and stud earrings. But these details don't capture the real tragedy. How a vulnerable young girl became prey for some sick individual who was documenting his predatory behavior online like it was content. The timeline of Celeste's situation with D4vd is some real disturbing when you look at it alongside his social media activity. Reports show they might have linked up online as early as 2021 when Celeste was just 11 years old. So, while this fool was building his music career and crafting his image as some deep artist, he was simultaneously grooming a baby behind the scenes, a process that would eventually end with her murder. Celeste went missing in April 2024 at age 13, reported by her family to the Riverside County Sheriff's Office. Her disappearance didn't get treated like the emergency it should have been, partly because she had run away from home multiple times before. This pattern of running away, which investigators now think was connected to her situation with D4vd, meant that when she disappeared for good, crucial opportunities to save her got missed. What makes this whole thing even more heartbreaking is the evidence that Celeste's family knew she was in some kind of secret relationship with someone named David. Her mother revealed that Celeste had been dealing with this individual, and a former teacher said that Celeste met him online through social media. The fact that family members and teachers knew about this relationship, but couldn't prevent what happened shows how hard it is to protect kids in our digital world.
Her brother told NBC News that he was aware that his sister knew the singer David. Matthew Rivas said when she went missing, she was on her way to see a movie with him, but never returned.
The physical evidence connecting D4vd to Celeste was as sick as it was obvious. Both of them had matching SH tattoos on their right index fingers with Celeste's done in red ink. This wasn't just some coincidence. This was a mark of ownership. Like this predator was literally branding his victim. The medical examiner confirmed this tattoo detail, which her family verified as something police hadn't released to the public. But the digital evidence was even more damaged. Screenshots from D4vd's Discord server from 2022, when Celeste was just 12 years old, show interactions between them. These weren't innocent fan conversations. They documented a grooming process that went on for years with D4v slowly building trust and isolating Celeste from people who could help her. They found an unreleased track titled Celeste_Demo Unfin from December 2023 that references Celeste with some really intimate lyrics, including disturbing lines about tattoos and obsession. This song, discovered during the investigation, provides a chilling soundtrack to D4vd's mental state in the months before Celeste's murder. Those lyrics weren't artistic expression. They were a confession set to beats. When they found Celeste's body, it was as tragic as it was revealing. On September 8, 2025, workers at a Hollywood tow impound lot reported a foul smell coming from an abandoned Tesla. When LAPD checked it out, they discovered Celeste's decomposed remains in a bag inside the front trunk. The whip was registered to D4vd, but he wasn't driving it recently since he was on tour outside of Los Angeles. Condition of Celeste's body told its own horrific story. Her remains weren't intact, with reports confirming dismemberment, exactly matching the violent fantasies D4vd had been sharing on social media for years. The body had been decomposing for a long time, possibly months, based on the state of the remains. This timing suggests that Celeste got murdered around the time D4vd started his tour, letting him keep up his public image.
15-year-old Celeste Rivas as the person who was found dead at a Hollywood tow yard in early September in the trunk of singer David's Tesla. Medical examiner is still trying to determine the cause of her death.
What investigators found most disturbing was how calculated this whole crime was. The Tesla was abandoned in the Hollywood Hills about 1.5 blocks from where D4vd had been staying. This proximity wasn't random. It let D4vd keep tabs on the situation while maintaining plausible deniability about his involvement. The car had been parked there for about 5 days before getting towed. And during that whole time, D4vd kept touring and posting on social media like nothing happened. The digital evidence showed just how much D4vd had been planning and fantasizing about violence against Celeste. Online speculation includes possible motives like jealousy, pregnancy scares, or worries about career damage from a relationship with a minor. But the social media evidence suggests something way more sinister, that D4vd got pleasure from the psychological torture and ultimate murder of someone he had been grooming for years. Photos and live streams from October 2023 showed D4vd with a girl who looks like Celeste at a Los Angeles event, proving their relationship wasn't limited to online interactions. These public appearances combined with the private Discord conversations paint a picture of someone who is boldly flaunting his relationship with a minor while simultaneously documenting his violent fantasies online. The investigation also revealed a Reddit comment from 8 days before the public identification that mentioned a missing girl from Lake Elsinore connected to D4vd. This suggests that people in D4vd's circle knew about the connection between him and Celeste's disappearance long before law enforcement made the link public, raising questions about why nobody came forward sooner.
On top of all of this, a song leaked that I can't confirm if it's real, but it's called Celeste. Apparently, David wrote it in 2023, and the lyrics are kind of crazy.
The timeline gets even more disturbing when you think about D4vd's touring schedule. He was able to keep up his public persona and continue performing while knowing that Celeste's body was decomposing in his vehicle. This level of compartmentalization shows a deeply antisocial personality capable of extreme deception and emotional detachment. The family has expressed devastation over their loss, with Celeste's mother confirming details about the tattoo that police hadn't released to the public. GoFundMe campaign has been organized to help with burial costs, highlighting the additional trauma of a family forced to crowdfund their daughter's funeral while processing the horrific details of her murder. What makes this case particularly tragic is how many red flags got missed or ignored. Celeste's brother reportedly told police about the relationship with D4vd, but it got dismissed for lack of evidence. This failure of the system to protect a vulnerable child, combined with D4vd's ability to hide his true nature behind a carefully crafted public persona, allowed a preventable tragedy to unfold. The digital evidence shows this wasn't some impulsive crime or a moment of passion gone wrong. This was a calculated murder committed by someone who had been fantasizing about violence for years, documenting those fantasies on social media, and using his growing fame to access and groom vulnerable young fans. How social media became the smoking gun. The breakthrough in connecting D4vd's TikTok activity to Celeste's murder didn't happen overnight. You feel me? It required a whole new approach to digital forensics. One that recognized social media not just as background noise, but as a potential goldmine of evidence that could reveal a killer's mindset, planning process, and psychological evolution toward violence. On September 18, 2025, LAPD ran up on a Hollywood Hills house where D4vd had been staying with a search warrant, marking a major escalation in the investigation. The search focused on blood evidence, with investigators specifically checking drains for traces of blood or tissue. Several items got seized for forensic analysis, but it was the digital evidence that proved most damning. What investigators discovered when they analyzed D4v's social media activity was unprecedented in scope and disturbing as hell in its implications. They found that his TikTok reposts and captions weren't random expressions of dark humor, but rather a systematic documentation of violent fantasies that lined up perfectly with the details of Celeste's murder. Interview.
Why the hell would you go in Elon's on-road spaceship that records everything and go do a crime and then leave the body in the trunk? It probably got you chopping her up. It probably got all type of in hard drive.
The Tesla itself became crucial evidence in ways that D4vd apparently never anticipated. Modern Tesla whips are basically computers on wheels recording extensive data about their usage, location, and even internal camera footage. If evidence from Tesla vehicles helped solve other high-profile cases, then D4vd's choice to use his Tesla in connection with Celeste's murder was perhaps the most catastrophic mistake he could have made. The social media analysis revealed patterns that were impossible to ignore. D4vd's repost of a dude chopping raw chicken with the caption, "Me, if I see her talk with other dudes," took on prophetic significance when viewed alongside Celeste's dismembered remains. This wasn't just coincidence. This was evidence of premeditation, showing that D4vd had been fantasizing about dismembering Celeste, specifically in response to jealousy over her interactions with others. The American Psycho repost with its caption about jealousy and disgust provided additional insight into D4vd's psychological state. The reference to being utterly disgusted by her actions suggested that D4vd viewed Celeste not as a victim, but as someone who had somehow wronged him and deserved punishment. This victim-blaming mentality is consistent with the psychology of perpetrators who justify extreme violence through distorted thinking patterns. Perhaps most chilling was investigators' realization that D4vd's Hello Kitty-themed profile picture and posts weren't aesthetic choices, but rather trophies commemorating his relationship with Celeste. The February 7, 2024 video captioned about that one Hello Kitty girl you met in 2021. It wasn't just a random meme. It was D4vd publicly referencing his grooming of Celeste while hiding the true meaning in plain sight. The investigation also revealed how much D4vd had manipulated those around him. Reports suggest he paid other young people in his Discord server to keep quiet about his relationship with Celeste, creating a network of complicity that helped him avoid detection for years. This systematic approach to covering up his crimes demonstrates a level of premeditation and manipulation that goes far beyond a simple crime.
Like, if the mom of the victim knew that she was dating someone named David, did she not know his age? And I'm not blaming her specifically, but it seems like the people around her knew a bit about it, like the guy from the Reddit post who apparently knew that she ran off with David.
The professional consequences for D4vd have been swift and comprehensive. His record label Intercope paused promotions for the deluxe version of his album Withered, while major entities including Universal Music Group, Sony Music Publishing, and Wasserman halted all activities. Sponsors such as Crocs and Hollister removed campaign content featuring D4vd, and he can lead his entire US and world tour. The timing of some of D4vd's social media posts has taken on new significance in light of the investigation. Fans pointed out that his last Instagram post promoting the deluxe version of his album was made on September 7th, which was Celeste's 15th birthday. Her body was discovered the next day. This timing couldn't have been coincidental. It suggests that D4vd was deliberately commemorating Celeste's birthday while knowing that her remains were decomposing in his whip. The public reaction has been one of horror and disbelief. Online discussions on platforms like X, Reddit, and TikTok have exploded, with users compiling evidence threads and expressing outrage. Many fans have expressed an inability to listen to his music anymore, while others have drawn comparisons between D4vd
And apparently, like, all the people that knew, especially some of the other little kids, looked like this was like a little kid server he was in. He would pay these kids to not say anything. He would give them money.
What makes this case particularly significant for law enforcement is how it demonstrates the evolution of criminal behavior in the digital age. Traditional investigations focused on physical evidence, witness testimony, and conventional behavioral analysis. But D4vd's case shows how social media can serve as a real-time confession, with perpetrators unconsciously or perhaps consciously documenting their criminal fantasies and activities for posterity. The investigation has also highlighted the challenges of protecting children in online spaces. Despite evidence that people knew about D4vd's relationship with Celeste, including family members and educators, the mechanisms for intervention failed catastrophically. This case will likely lead to new protocols for handling reports of inappropriate relationships between adults and minors, particularly when those adults have public platforms and influence. The cause of Celeste's death remains deferred pending further forensic analysis, but the circumstantial evidence is overwhelming. The combination of matching tattoos, documented interactions, leaked photos and videos, and unreleased song referencing her by name, and most importantly, the social media evidence showing D4vd's violent fantasies creates a compelling case for his involvement in her murder. As of the latest updates, D4vd has not been formally charged, but he continues to cooperate with authorities through his representatives. The investigation remains active, with forensics ongoing and no timeline for resolution. However, the social media evidence has fundamentally changed how this case is being prosecuted, providing investigators with unprecedented insight into a killer's mindset and methodology. The tragic irony of this case is that D4vd's rise to fame was built on his ability to connect with young fans through social media, the very platform he would later use to document his violent fantasies and ultimately confess to his crimes. His song Romantic Homicide may have been intended as a metaphor for heartbreak, but in light of the evidence, it reads more like a confession set to music. Celeste's family continues to seek justice, with a GoFundMe campaign helping to cover burial costs scheduled for October 5, 2025. Their loss serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of our failure to adequately protect children in digital spaces and the devastating consequences when warning signs are ignored or dismissed. This case will undoubtedly change how law enforcement approaches social media evidence in violent crimes, how platforms monitor concerning content, and how society protects vulnerable young people from online predators. But for Celeste Rivas Hernandez, these changes come too late. Her death serves as a tragic reminder that behind every viral post, every streaming statistic, and every social media interaction, there are real human lives at stake. The digital breadcrumbs that D4vd left on TikTok weren't just evidence of his crimes. They were a roadmap showing how online platforms can become complicit in violence when concerning behavior is normalized, ignored, or dismissed as entertainment. As we continue to navigate the complex relationship between social media and real-world violence, Celeste's story must serve as both a warning and a call to action for protecting the most vulnerable members of our digital communities. Real talk, this whole situation shows us that we need to start taking the social media more seriously. When somebody's posting about violence, dismemberment, and weird obsessions with specific people or characters, that ain't just content. That might be somebody telling us exactly what they're planning to do. We can't keep sleeping on these red flags and treating everything like it's just entertainment. Lives are at stake, and Celeste's story proves that the warning signs are often right there in front of us. We just need to start paying attention. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.